What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Thursday? I don't know about you guys, but this week is flying by for me. Already a Thursday morning, and it is time for 3 moves in free agency that Jack Gentry would do if he were Titans GM Ran Carthon. This was the Magic Bucket pool from last Thursday, and we decided to make a whole damn show out of it. So we're going to have a great show talking about the 3 moves that Jack has come up with this offseason. All 3 of these happen to be dealing with upcoming free agents, and they're very interesting. So I'm very curious to see the chat's reaction on Jack's moves. We'll go through one Titan who might be returning in two-tone blue, who is a pending free agent, and then 2 new Titans to fill needs, big needs on this roster under a new head coach, Brian Callahan. So Jack has 3 moves that he will present to us as if he were Titans GM Ran Carthon. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grade Jack's offseason performance with all 3 of these moves collectively after we do it. And we'll see how he comes out of this. If he comes out of the wash with a positive, a negative, a letter grade, pluses and minuses are welcome. We'll see what type of risk Jack wants to take and how much money he's going to spend if Amy Adams shrunk. And then we'll just turn back around and go back to the Magic Bucket again, because it is a Thursday, and we always end the Thursday shows with the Magic Bucket. So, Jack, welcome in, GM Jack. How are things going?
You know, GM Jack and pinching pennies this offseason, baby. We're spending it all. So, wait, look, before we get into any of that, guys, I'm looking at our likes numbers. We're only at 6. Let's please bump those up. It helps us. It helps us grow the show. It helps us with our audience. So we want to like the show. If you're watching on Facebook, give that thumbs up. If you're watching on YouTube, do the same. Like the show. Let's get it up. I only see one person have liked since I've began talking. Here we go. Now they're trickling in. Let's go. Keep liking the show. Boost those numbers. And if you're watching on Facebook, share the show as well. Share it to your Titans Facebook groups. I want to hear from all of you guys on Facebook as well as YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, turn your notifications on by tapping that bell icon at the top of your screen. You do not want to miss an update when A to Z Sports goes live or posts any type of content to their YouTube channel. It's going to be fast and furious once March rolls around. Do not miss out on it. Be the first to be updated. You'll be the coolest guy in the office. You'll be the coolest guy at the water cooler because you know what's going on all the time with the Tennessee Titans. Finally, if you're watching on Twitch, text that Twitch link around to your Titans text groups. Text to anybody who has a big decision they want to make or they want to see the Titans make this offseason. We're going to get into a handful of these decisions, and we want to hear from you guys throughout the show. So let's be active. Let's be energetic. And Austin, let's get the show on the road.
Yep, let's get it going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Jack Gentry, and we are Nashville's on-demand sports network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Also hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more Titans content. We got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us, and they help out all of you, like Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process by seeing them in Lebanon or online, wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans at fbhp.com/ATOZ. And Krebs Kubota, an elite Kubota dealer with 3 great locations in Murfreesboro, Columbia, and in Franklin, online at krebskubota.com. Before we dive into Jack's Magic Bucket, I do want to hate on Greg German, who says, but first, 5 minutes of sponsors. Oh, Greg, 5 minutes of sponsors? I just timed myself. The entire official open took 56 seconds. So, Greg, shove it. Our sponsors is what makes this happen, and you guys should be grateful for our sponsors because this is why we were able to deliver about 12 hours of live content per week, because we have sponsors that pay the bills, that pay the staff, that allow you guys to have the best on-demand Titans content. So, Greg, shove it and take your 5 minutes and turn it up your backside. I did it in 56 seconds. So, congratulations to Greg. Suck it, Greg.
Good morning, Greg. Golly, that's not what he expected this morning.
I see you in the chat. I see all of you.
I love it. Austin's breathing fire this morning on Thursday. Let's get this thing going, dude.
Yeah, let's do it. It is now time, Jack, for the Magic Bucket. Jack, so the Magic Bucket told you last week 3 moves that you would make this offseason if you were Titans general manager Ran Carthon. We've got these 3 ready to go. They all have to deal with free agency. And so we are going to have a great time this morning with general manager Jack Gentry of the Tighten Up Podcast. New episode is out wherever you get your podcasts on the A to Z Sports Podcast Network. Jack, let's begin with a previous Titan that you think Ran Carthon should bring back this year, who is currently having his contract expire after this past season. Jack, who is this Titan you want to bring back into Two-Tone Blue?
Yeah, so GM Jack, he's looking at the roster and he's found a strength on the defensive front. And most notably is Danico Autry up there. He's a free agent this offseason, and I understand he's on the wrong side of 30. But look, he's got 28 and a half sacks in his 3 years with the Titans, coming off a career year last season with 11 and a half sacks. And Austin, what do they say about some of the best players in any sport? Well, they make the other guys around him better. Danico Autry, whenever he's on the field, makes his other D-line mates better. Whether it's Jeffrey Simmons, whether it's Harold Landry, or last year Arden Key, when Danico Autry was on the field, he commands attention from an offensive line and an offensive coordinator. They have to game plan ways to stop Danico Autry from ruining the game and wrecking their quarterback. Danico Autry needs to be prioritized. Look, him next to Jeffrey Simmons has been a match made in heaven. The 2 Mississippi State Bulldogs, the chemistry is off the charts, but the production is too. And, when you let a guy like Danico Autry walk, I think that sends the wrong message to incoming free agents. Like, even if you perform at levels you had never seen in your entire career, the Titans are going to say, well, you know what? We don't have it in the budget. You got to make room for players like Danico Autry. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that Danico Autry is the best Titans free agent signing on the defensive side of the ball since Kyle Vanden Bosch. And you know what? If he has another big year, then you start to throw him in a conversation with the best Titans free agents ever, like throwing him up next to Delaney Walker. Yeah. So I think you can bring Danico Autry back on a smart deal, right? $10 to $12 million AAV. Maybe it's a 2-year deal because he is going to run out of juice at some point. And, I'll pull up his age right now. I don't have that in front of me.
He is. I just pulled it up because I was ready for it, because Danico Autry is 33 years old right now, but he turns 34 in July. So when training camp opens, he will be 34 years old on the defensive line. So, hey, that's grown man strength that he's got on the D-line. But 34 is a risky age for sure. But you just mentioned he's coming off his career best season.
Give him a 2-year deal. And I think you can make a case that he's the most valuable free agent that the Titans need to re-sign. Like Azeez Al-Shaair, great player, important piece to your defense, the captain of the defense in the middle of it. And then Sean Murphy-Bunting. But I think Danico Autry holds more value than both of those players. So my first move would be to bring back a guy who's absolutely earned every penny of what I'm about to pay him, Danico Autry. He's coming back.
All right, so I saw a couple comments for Danico Autry. Justin says Autry doesn't get half the amount of love from the league that he should. I totally agree with that.
Nobody talks about him because he's got Big Jeff next to him.
Yeah, and he's a quiet player. Like, Danico is one of the worst media interviews on the Titans roster, and that's not his fault. He just has no interest in talking to the media, and he's not that interesting of a person publicly. I think he's probably very different behind closed doors with his guys. And so,
but to that point, like, flying under the radar could help the Titans here save a little extra money, because, maybe he doesn't get the buzz that he deserves around the league, or maybe the age is scaring teams off of him. But I think that could help, maybe not deflate his value, but it would help, with the demand around the league. So the Titans aren't in a bidding war against 6 different teams. Yeah. Now it's maybe just a couple of different teams that they have to go against.
Yeah, now see, Lucas Burks gets the show. Like, I know people that listen to the Tighten Up podcast, you guys get the show. If you're a Dan Levitard friend, you understand the show. You get the show. Lucas says Autry is Cole Kmet, and if Sam is hearing that, Sam is laughing very loud about the Cole Kmet references there. So Danico Autry is going to be interesting because Darren says Danico back. That's a no-brainer, co-sign. But Andre says Autry is going to drop like all the cell services have this morning. And I don't know. I'm a Verizon person, so I have not been affected. But I know AT&T across the entire country, you cannot make phone calls today. So I don't know, Jack, if you're an AT&T person, we talked on the phone this morning, so I know you're not. I know you and Sam are not AT&T people because that would have already reared its ugly head. So yeah. Andre taking a fall from grace from Danico Autry because he's 34 years old, and IR says, I'm 34. Just tell Autry not to fall off his bed. 34 is about that time when things go downhill. But, Danico Autry coming off a career best 11 sacks last season, there's still upside and excited, about what he could bring in year 34.
And I hear that, right? I hear you, Andre. But he's missed 5 games in 3 years with the Titans, and that was all 5 of those games came in 2022. So in year 1 and year 3 with the Titans, Danico Autry has played all 17 games. And remember, he played all 17 games last year when the Titans had nothing to play for at the end of the season. They were shutting down their veterans, and Danico Autry was still out there making big-time plays and was a difference in a couple of the Titans wins last year. He was a big-time difference maker. Look, you're going to be able to find better and younger defensive linemen out there in free agency, but Danico Autry just works on this defensive front. He works next to Big Jeff. He works next to Harold Landry. Those 2 guys are coming back next year. If you retain your top 3 pass rushers from last season, I expect the Titans to get back to their old ways of sacking the quarterback, forcing early decisions, forcing early throws, and, the secondary will be there to reap some of those benefits last year. Look, the Titans didn't turn the ball over last year. Denard Wilson, he's coming from a defense that did that stuff. 31 turnovers forced for Denard Wilson's Ravens defense last year. If the Titans want to replicate some of that, Danico Autry has to be back.
All right, so here is what we have, and I just pasted the full link in the chat of what it would take potentially, a contract projection for Danico Autry from A to Z Sports.com's Josh Keepo. I mentioned this yesterday. We're going to be doing this a lot over the next month of our free agent contract projections. Our guy Eldon English precisely nailed it. Zach can no longer say Spo don't know because I went out and found a cap analyst to create our own contract projections for this free agency so we don't have to rely on our friends over at Spotrac. But Danico Autry, according to our contract projections on A to Z Sports.com, just a 1-year deal, right? Because he is going into year 34 in his age. So a 1-year deal, $9 million, a $6 million guaranteed with a 1-year cap hit of $9 million. Now, that is, a lot for a 34-year-old player on the defensive line. But I also think it's fairly easy to add some void years into this contract where maybe that $6 million guaranteed is a $6 million signing bonus, and he just has a $3 million salary. So you can give him $6 million up front in his pocket and then spread that $3 million over the 17-game season. And now you can spread the $6 million signing bonus. You slap on a couple void years, and now all of a sudden his year 1 cap hit is just $5 million. That's something that I could see really being the case for Danico Autry. And I think a lot of Titans fans, I would say the majority of Titans fans and Titans media would be totally fine with Danico Autry being back in 2024.
Yeah, that's even cheaper than what I had, right? And, I think we're at a point in the offseason, and a lot of Titans fans, I get it, you're conscious of the budget that they have. But in free agency, you're going to overpay just about every single time. And that's something that, you have to accept heading into this thing. So if it does take a little bit more, I still think you bring Danico Autry back. But like you mentioned, you can get creative with this stuff.
Yeah.
You can even add a second year, give him a team option. And I saw a comment in the chat I want to get to really quick. I think we hit on this on
not
Tuesday,
a player option, a team option. There is no player options, as that has been a hot button issue this week.
Yes, exactly. That was the exact issue I was looking for. I think I lost it in the comments, but
okay.
So give maybe slap a team option on there if Danico Autry performs again next season and just becomes an ageless wonder. Then you bring him back again in 2025. So I like where we're at with Danico Autry. I like the money, but look, this is an offseason where you can't pinch pennies. If you want to improve your roster, you got to spend. You got to spend money to make money, and the Titans are in a position to do that this offseason. But first, you got to take care of some in-house issues. Bring back a guy who's proven he's valuable to your roster time and time again, Danico Autry.
All right. And last thing I'll say about the Nico Autry, because $65 million of cap space as of now. Sam talked at Titans at 2 the other day about 3 Titans that could be cap casualties and get cut before to create more space. And I think we'll have some more conversations about that. But the Nico Autry at $5 million in a year 1 cap hit based off of my contract that I drew up, adding a couple voided years. You bring back the Nico Autry and you still got north of $60 million of cap space. I think that's something I would co-sign on. And when you talk about Denard Wilson's been around 4-3 defenses. Danico Autry and the Titans have been playing a 3-4 defense. But Danico is a player that can play in any type of defensive front. So if you're looking at a possible transition from going more 4-3 than 3-4, even though it is a fluid, versatile type thing, Danico Autry is a glue piece of somebody who can have you play any type of scheme up front and make it effective because of his overall skill set as both a run defender and a pass rusher.
Exactly. Front multiplicity. We heard Vrabel say it. We heard Callahan come in and kind of say the same thing. He's going to run different looks on defense, or at least that's what Denard Wilson wants to do. And Danico Autry, he's like a utility player in baseball up front on that defensive line. If you need a shortstop that day, if your shortstop got sick, Danico Autry will go play shortstop. If you need a left fielder, plug Danico Autry in at left field. That's the same thing the Titans are going to be able to do up front on the defensive line with Danico Autry, and that's what makes him so valuable, right? Because if you're without Jeffrey Simmons for a week, well, Danico Autry will handle the inside. If you're without Harold Landry, well, Danico Autry can line up on the outside. He can do a ton of different things, and that's what makes him so valuable. And if it's only $9 million and you want to cover most of that with a signing bonus, I mean, that's music to my ears. You still have essentially the entire budget left over to continue spending while also retaining one of your most impactful defensive players.
And a leader who can also help us all and help this organization transition from one coaching staff to the next, new eras in Nashville. All right, so Danico Autry signed is the first of Jack's 3 moves. We're going through Jack's 3 moves he would make if he were Ran Carthon. All of these moves are basically free agent type moves. And I did see Nate Spurner says, no wide receiver talk, no Frazier. It's peaceful in the chat. Well, we're about to ruin that peace because it is now time
Hope you enjoyed
for wide receiver talk for Jack's next move in free agency if he were Ran Carthon. But first, the Bone and Joint Institute. That is where you guys should turn if you have any type of injury in life. I saw IR mention, man, if he was in the state of Tennessee, he'd go to the Bone and Joint Institute, but he's in Florida. Maybe he's feeling some pain. That is where you should turn if you're in the mid-state, because the Bone and Joint Institute is the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. And whenever you get hurt in life, you have to know who you can go to and who you can trust. And they have so many experts, a dozen plus experts at the Bone and Joint Institute who can help you out with any type of injury that you have in life, whether it's just life in general that's getting you banged up. Maybe you got a sciatica problem. Maybe you got back, shoulder, hip, knee from an old injury. Maybe your son or daughter got hurt playing youth sports. That happens. Check them out online right off of I-65 in Franklin, boneandjointtn.org.
BetMGM.com has you covered for all of your sports betting needs. If you're looking to dive into the game or if you're looking to make a change with your sports book, go ahead and sign up with BetMGM because new users can download the app, plug in the bonus code that you see on your screen, A to Z Sports, and you'll receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. They're not going to put you down early. They're going to give you an opportunity to start on top. Do it. Take advantage of this offer with BetMGM and start winning. If you're looking to get in the game, BetMGM is the perfect place to do that. Download BetMGM. Use our bonus code ATOZ Sports.
Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older. Tennessee only. New customer offer. All promotions subject to qualification and other requirements. First online room on wager only. Rewards issued non-eligible bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days. And for problem game sport, call Tennessee Red Line 800-889-9789. Jack, Danico Autry back. That's your first move we've discussed today. You've got 3 moves because the Magic Bucket told you so. If you were Ran Carthon, now we talk wide receiver. Jack, what is your wide receiver move you would make this offseason if you were Ran Carthon?
Yeah, so it's obviously a hot button issue, and for good reason, right? The Titans just let a superstar wide receiver walk out of the door. So how are you going to fill that void? Well, DeAndre Hopkins showed you that he can still do some things at his age with over 1,000 yards receiving last year. but you've got a young quarterback, Austin. And with Will Levis, you need sure things. You can't gamble with your future. And there's no more sure thing out there right now than T. Higgins. Coming from Brian Callahan's system, he had a couple of injury bugs last year that limited his production, which actually may lower the price out there on the trade market for T. Higgins when the Bengals inevitably franchise tag him. So what I would do, I would take the left tackle with my 7th overall pick. But instead of drafting a wide receiver and, having him learn and grow and develop with Will Levis and develop in Callahan's system, I'm going to go out and bring in a sure thing in a known commodity in T. Higgins, who's had success in Callahan's system. But I'm going to give up that 2nd round pick paired with a 4th round pick to go add a guy that I know that can contribute right away with the Titans, can help Will Levis develop faster, can be, another big time jump ball, 50-50 guy on the outside at 6'4". And T. Higgins, he's also top 15 in yak yards per game last year. So he can help you and run after the catcher. The Titans didn't have a lot in last season. But I want to go out and get T. Higgins, and you've got the money to do it. There's no point in having all this money and not spending it on elite caliber talent like T. Higgins out there. And I get it. If you're an Ayuk guy, you prefer him over T. Higgins, but I don't think anybody in the chat would be upset with adding T. Higgins to this Titans offense. Will Levis is a deep ball thrower. T. Higgins is a deep ball catcher. It just makes sense to me to bring in T. Higgins and to part ways with that 2nd round pick, because I think T. Higgins is going to be a better player than anybody you're going to be able to find in the 2nd round this year. And there is a crop of dudes that could pan out, but it's a risk. And you don't want to take the risk on missing on another receiver. You already got to figure out what you're going to do with Treylon Burks and how you're going to make him work in Brian Callahan's system. You don't want another question mark. So bring me a sure thing. You have DeAndre Hopkins and T. Higgins, 1A, 1B, however you want to put those two dudes. Those are two reliable weapons for Will Levis to grow as a quarterback and become the first 4,000-yard passer in Tennessee Titans history.
All right, so I got some comments in here that I favorited because people were all over the board on this. I see Jermel saying, okay, Jack. Danny says, dear God, no, not 2 picks. And then Stephen King says 2025 4th rounder. And that's where I'm going to show, because that is what we have specified in this is a 2024 2nd round pick and a 2025 4th round pick for wide receiver T. Higgins. And once again, I'll point back to our contract projection project over at A2ZSports.com. If you missed it yesterday, you go to our homepage, A2ZSports.com, and you scroll down, and I have it pinned in our trending section as the top post for our 105 free agent contract projections there for this free agency. And so that franchise tag that I believe is a higher likelihood at this point, but a 3-year, $70 million deal, average of 23.5 per year and 45 guaranteed, and 2 picks. And it's about 1 this year at 2nd round and 1 this year or next year in the 4th round. And the one thing I do agree with you, Jack, is that I don't think the Tennessee Titans are going to find a 2nd round wide receiver at the 38th slot that will be anything like T. Higgins over their career. When Sam went down to Mobile, Alabama in the Senior Bowl, and Sam's going to the NFL Combine next week in Indianapolis, he learned a lot. The wide receivers are good at the very top. The names we've been talking about, Marvin Harrison Jr., Rome Odunze, and Malik Neighbors. And then there's a significant drop-off. And Xavier Legette was supposed to be somebody that really showed up and shined at the Senior Bowl to see if he can jump up in that late 1st round. There's A.D. Mitchell out of Texas via Georgia. There's some other names that we know in college football, but the wide receivers were a lot of meh. And I think T. Higgins for the 38th pick and a 4th round pick next year, it's a steep price. But I also believe that it's something the Titans could consider, because you're going into this era where you've got a cheap-ass quarterback that's got talent and upside in Will Levis. Again, $9 million over 4 years for Will Levis. Why not go get somebody at wide receiver that you can spend more on now? After Will Levis's rookie deal, T. Higgins is 28, 29 years old. This contract you're about to sign him to in this hypothetical situation is probably expiring. And now you're paying Will Levis a bunch of money. And now Will Levis, as an experienced quarterback, can go help and play better with younger receivers. And now you kind of flip it, right? Like Patrick Mahomes had his best receiving core when he was on his rookie contract. And I'm not comparing Levis to Mahomes, right? But in this situation, that you have Levis as an older quarterback now doesn't need the veteran receivers where he's more needing to have veteran wideouts as a younger player, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not quite saying I'm all in on this yet, because I think this is by far the riskiest of your 3 offseason moves if you were Ran Carthon, but it is interesting, and it's something that's not going to go away from our chatter over the next 3 to 4 weeks.
No, and look what some of the teams with young quarterbacks surround themselves with at wide receiver, right? Like Joe Burrow on a rookie deal had Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. You have Brock Purdy with Debo and Ayuk and Kittle. You had Tua, who the Dolphins were able to bring in Tyreek Hill and pair him with Waddle because you had extra money because your quarterback was on a rookie deal. There are countless examples, and I'm leaving a few out, I'm sure. But Jalen Hurts, you were able to go get A.J. Brown while Jalen Hurts was still cheap. And Devontae Smith, you get to pair him with him. So all these teams with a young quarterback bring in a big money wide receiver. DeAndre Hopkins didn't really break the bank. But T. Higgins, you're able to now go spend on a guy who's been there and done that. And you know what? Tony brings up a point. He says, why not wait till next year, though, Jack, when he's a free agent? Well, here's the thing. Right now, T. Higgins' price is as low as it's probably going to be. He's coming off a season where he played in just 12 games, only 650 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. What if he goes for 1,209 touchdowns next year? Then you got to pay a whole lot more. So go ahead and make that trade. Give up the draft pick this year. Give up a 4th round next year, which will probably turn into a mid-4th round pick. You hope so. You're not giving up the 7th pick in the 4th round, essentially a late 3rd round pick.
Which is interesting, right? Because what is a 4th round pick? It's the first round of day 3. And I think that's where like GMs hold a high value in early picks to start those days, like the 2nd round pick and the 4th round pick, because it allows you to really have a chance to look at the board and see what you want to do overnight. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just like playing the stock market, right? You want to buy low. Well, you're not going to buy lower than right now on T. Higgins. And, you know, he's already shown that he can go for 1,000 yards. He did it in back-to-back seasons in 2021 and 2022. And he's a red zone target. When the Titans are at their best, they're scoring in the red zone. DeAndre Hopkins, great red zone threat. You give Will Levis T. Higgins, and we know Will Levis can operate between the 20s, but the next step is to become a threat in the red zone and score touchdowns on a consistent basis. T. Higgins helps you get there. So I'm a big fan of T. Higgins. I think that he fits in this system. And I know that Brian Callahan knows exactly how to use him and cater to his strengths. And he's going to put him in the right situations. He's not going to have to learn and, kind of pitter-patter around with an A.D. Mitchell or a Keon Coleman or a Xavier Leggett, a guy that you'd take in the 2nd round and learn what he does best, on the fly. He knows what T. Higgins is going to do, and he knows what T. Higgins is capable of. I think that sets Will Levis up for a quick development and a fast track to getting the Titans back to a position where they can win the AFC South and compete in the AFC playoffs once again.
All right, so let's go ahead and ask this question, because I see Justin already kind of said what he would do. Our question here about T. Higgins is pretty simple. It is, what trade price tag would you be willing to give up for wide receiver T. Higgins? What trade price tag would you be willing to give up for wide receiver T. Higgins? We haven't really gotten to you guys as much in the chat because Jack's been laying out his plan, which I think so far has been a very entertaining plan right here. So what trade price tag would you be willing to give up for wide receiver T. Higgins? But first, I'm going to tell everybody about our great friends at Krebs Kubota. If you need any type of equipment, man, the weather the last day and today before the rain comes in, 60s in February. This is what the groundhog was talking about with this early spring. And that means those projects are just around the corner, and Krebs Kubota is your place to go for all of your equipment needs: mowers, trimmers, power units, hay balers, tractors, utility vehicles. They've got it all at Krebs Kubota, and they have the best equipment in the industry as an elite Kubota dealer, and also the best warranties in the industry with their connection as an elite Kubota dealer. But they also have the best customer service, because the Krebs family name, Krebs is a family name, which makes it even better because they put their reputation on their shirts, on their chest, on their sign, on their reputation to make sure that they give you the best customer service you can possibly have when it comes to any of your equipment. And it's super important to have a relationship with your equipment provider because we're not experts, they are. We don't know what's going to happen. Things might break. Might need some service being done. And they've got all of that right there in 3 locations across the midstate in Columbia, where it all began. And then they expanded to Murfreesboro and Franklin because it's going so well. So Columbia, Franklin, Murfreesboro, online at KrebsKubota.com.
BetMGM.com. There's a ton of stuff going on right now. Spring training starts in the MLB today. College basketball is in full swing. And my God, Austin, nobody can win on the road. It's an exciting time to get in the game. Do it with BetMGM. Use our bonus code A to Z Sports, and you'll receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. You're going to start out in the green. Do it with BetMGM. It's the most easy app to navigate. They've got plenty of rewards like boosted odds specials. They've got live features that are second to none. The selection is unmatched as well. So get in the game with BetMGM and sign up with our bonus code A to Z Sports. Get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets when you do so, if your first bet misses when you do so.
All right, so Jack, we're asking the question, what trade price tag would you give up for T. Higgins for a wide receiver? I'll kind of go through, again, what your plan would be hypothetically as if you're wearing your Ran Carthon. Man, we should have gotten you a Ran Carthon T hat for today.
I know. I want one of those. I'm in the market for one of those hats.
Well,
I just got to figure out where to find it.
Rand's wearing it right there on the graphic, man, because you're wearing your GM hat today for Ran Carthon. Shout out to the Magic Bucket that we'll get to later. But your plan is to trade a 2024 second-round pick and a 2025 fourth-round pick for wide receiver T. Higgins, then a contract extension that could look something around 3 years, $70 million for 23.5 annual per million. A year one cap hit of just 7.5 coming from our contract projections at A to Z Sports.com. So still something that's not going to break the bank. If you're pairing T. Higgins with the Danico Autry deal we talked about, that's just $13 million of cap space in year one. So still $50 million of cap space to go spend after these 2 moves. So Jack, I'll send you the chat. What are people saying about their trade price tag for T. Higgins and what they'd be willing to give up?
Yeah, Jake says just a second rounder this year. That's it. If the Bengals would do that, I totally agree, Jake. I have a feeling that they're going to ask a little bit more because they know that the Titans, it's a supply and demand game at the end of the day. And the Titans are in great demand and the Bengals have the supply. So if all it takes is a second rounder, I'm in. I just believe that they're going to want a little bit more. Curtis C says a fourth Burks and Farley. If you could do that, you'd be getting that. That's not a deal. That's a steal. I don't know that the Bengals would be up for that, but holy cow, if they would do that, I'd be in.
No way.
I just don't see Burks and Farley as, big needle movers in a deal like this. You've got Eric Davis, who says he'd part ways with Harold Landry to bring in T. Higgins. That's an interesting discussion. A player
that
for a
is
player.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Continuing to go down. We've got a 2024 second and 2025 fourth seems spot on. Stephen King says a second rounder and a 4 or a 5 next year. That's kind of where I was, Stephen. Before the show, I was just debating whether to take a 4 or a 5. I went with a 4 just because I think that gets the deal through. Moving on, Ross Biggie says he doesn't want anything for T. Higgins. He's out on T. Higgins.
Yeah,
Steve, he's kind of a polarizing player right now for the Titans fan base. Next year's second and a fourth, so you hold on to this year's second, which is a high second. I think the Bengals are going to want something now if they get rid of a guy like T. Higgins.
Let me kind of give you what my thought on this, because Stevie brings this up. Next year's second and fourth, because if you remember, let's go back to this past offseason. Lamar Jackson had that big franchise tag by the Ravens, right? And we didn't know if the Ravens wanted to pony up and sign their quarterback to a long-term extension, which they eventually did. But Lamar Jackson was his own agent, which complicated things when it comes to the negotiation table. But if the Bengals tag T. Higgins and are still unwilling to sign him up to a long-term deal because Joe Burrow's cap hit goes huge in 2025 and Jamar Chase's cap hit will go huge in 2025 with the contract they will have to sign him, then T. Higgins might be the odd man out in that salary cap gymnastics. What if the Tennessee Titans float out pre-draft a trade offer for T. Higgins on the franchise tag that's a low ball? It's not great. Titans don't have a third round pick this year. What if it's a fourth rounder this year and a third rounder next year? And they just just let it sit there. The Bengals may not take it. I don't know what else competition the Titans could have in this trade market in this situation for T. Higgins. But let's say you wait, they don't bite, the draft goes by, you use your own 38th overall pick in the second round this year, and now you up the ante. Now you say second round pick in 2025 and a fourth round pick in 2025. Now you've got your 7th overall, your 38th overall pick, and now you can get T. Higgins for future. If you wait until the draft passes by, because the deadline for the franchise tag is July 15th. That's when the deadline is for anybody tag to sign it, to play on it, or now you're getting into a holdout situation. So if the Titans want to be patient with it and are not using this as a boomer bust move, then I think that could play out pretty nicely. So I think I would sign for that.
Yeah, that's ideal, right? And Steven's kind of saying the same thing. Like, you already don't have a third this year and you want to give up a second as well. No, thanks. You got to look at it this way, Steven. You're drafting T. Higgins in the second round if you part ways with that second round pick. Like, you're spending that draft pick on T. Higgins. So that makes it different.
But you're drafting T. Higgins in the second round and paying him $70 million in 3 years instead of drafting somebody in the second round and paying them $8 million over the next 3 to 4 years. That's the main difference.
But again, it's risk reward, right? You know that T. Higgins can do it at a Pro Bowl caliber level. You don't know that your second round receiver is going to pan out to be the guy that he's projected to be. I mean, we have a recent example in Treylon Burks that should scare just about everybody off of that. No picks this year. That's all I'll say. Ira Hoshi wants to keep the draft picks, build for the future. JR says take Burks. I'm sure if the Titans could do that and flip Burks for Higgins, they'd do it. Second round pick and some cash from Brandon Dozier. The Titans do have a lot of money at their disposal. I would give up a second and Andre Dillard. Manny, if you could package Andre Dillard in any trade deal, whether it's for a third string punter, I think you do it. You're going to have to end up paying him next year anyways because of the contract that they signed him to. Of Vrabel failure there. Bowers at 38. I don't know what that comment is. I shouldn't have pulled it up. But swap second rounders and add a third round next year. Is that enough, do you think?
Say it one more time.
If you swap your second round pick with the Bengals this year, and then you throw in a third next year, is that enough to bring Higgins home?
I don't.
I'd be surprised.
Honestly, I don't know if the Bengals would go for that. But again, that's kind of what I'm saying is that my ideal situation, and somebody brought it up when I went through my thing, is like you're assuming that there's nobody else that's going to outbid you for T. Higgins. If you slow play it, low ball it pre-draft and then up the ante post-draft. But I think if you do that, then you're going to have to be okay with not getting T. Higgins in a trade and another team trading for him successfully, which if I were Ran Carthon, I'd be okay with. I'd be okay with a low ball offer, a fourth this year and a third next year pre-draft offer, rolling the dice, playing the board, as Ran Carthon told us last spring. And then if he gets traded elsewhere pre-draft and you miss out, oh, that's okay. No sweat. But if he doesn't get traded pre-draft, now I can go back post-draft and really load up in the arsenal and give up 2025 picks where the Titans are going to say, yeah, hopefully you're picking 15th or 18th or whatever like that next year.
That would be ideal, right? Being able to add a receiver in the second round, trade a couple picks next year for T. Higgins. Then you have, boom, you've got a trio. You've got D-Hop, Higgins, whoever you take in the second round. Patrick Byrd thinks Malachi Corley could be an option. You got to address the wide receiver position at some point this offseason. Bringing in Gabe Davis and Malachi Corley would do that in a way. I don't know that you're getting a whole lot of punch in Gabe Davis. If he disappears under Josh Allen, he's probably prone to do the same thing under Will Levis. Consistency issues, I have a problem with Gabe Davis there, but he's a selfless player. He's a great blocker. But I think Titans fans are a little sick of having wide receivers that are great blockers. It's time to bring in some actual downfield threats. Let's see. Just the second from Kyle. Stop giving away future mid-round picks. Those are extremely valuable. We've seen the Titans hit on a few of those picks over the years. Amani Hooker being one of those examples. Burks, a 2025 third and 2025 pick. Again, a lot of people are trying to package, some of the Titans' worst players, Treylon Burks, Andre Dillard, Caleb Farley. We've seen a bunch of those. None of those.
I don't think the Bengals would have any interest in that. A couple comments that I saw here. Justin said Titans get pick 19, which is the Bengals first rounder, and Higgins, and the Bengals get 7th overall and 106. I mean, yeah. If you're the Bengals, I think you do that because now the Bengals have a chance to actually trade up to go get Joe Alt or Ola Fashanu and finally fix the offensive line. And then the Titans slide back to 19. I don't know if the Titans would be willing. That's a steep price. Don't do that. There. Yeah.
GM Jack would veto that move. You keep that 7th overall pick. You get a bona fide starter immediately at left tackle or a wide receiver that's going to change your offense at that spot. There's no guarantee at 19. The Titans have been picking, in the teens and the 20s for the majority of the last 4 or 5 years. And when you do that, gone well.
Yeah, I mean, yes, at times you can get Jeffrey Simmons in the late teens, but you can also find yourself with Treylon Burks, Rashaan Evans, Caleb Farley. In that late teens, early 20s window. Mm-hmm. Andre has a super chat. He says, I like T, but not enough to trade for and pay him the money. We didn't pay AJ. Titans didn't pay AJ. He's not the same level. Can he be one? I'd rather go Hollywood and draft Neighbors. Now, I think we have to understand that the Titans didn't pay AJ was a John Robinson situation, and John Robinson has been gone. So would Ran Carthon have paid AJ and not botched that negotiation? I don't know. Maybe. Ran Carthon was involved to an extent. He was at least in the building the same offseason that Deebo Samuel was pulling the same tactics and stunts that AJ was doing and being dramatic and doing the social media play and all that stuff. And the Niners worked it out. And Ran Carthon got to experience that. So I don't think you can necessarily combine that. But we talked a little bit yesterday about the idea of Hollywood Brown and Malik Neighbors. I think that's a fascinating idea. And I think that's something I would sign off on. But I just don't think we have to let go of the AJ situation and holding against the Titans. Like, you can hold it against John Robinson all you want, but you have to not hold it against the logo.
Yeah, right. And your mistake with AJ has nothing to do with, you being in the sweepstakes for T. Higgins this offseason. You got to let that go. And you've really got to assess the situation as it currently lies. And T. Higgins is a guy that's going to help this team immediately. He's a guy that has experience in Brian Callahan's system. I mean, there are so many pros you can go down the list. And when you have a guy who has so many things in the pros column, you know what you got to do? You got to pay him a little bit. And wide receivers in today's game, because they are so valuable and it's a pass-heavy league now, they're going to cost money. But you can't let a couple $1 million here or a couple $1 million there sway you from bringing in a game changer on the offensive side of the ball. The Titans don't have many of those, and they haven't over the last 2 decades. So you go out and you spend the money that you have, because you're not going to have this amount of money every offseason. You spend that money on a guy who can come in and help you turn the page on offense. If it's T. Higgins, great. If it's Brandon Ayuk, great. If it's someone else that can contribute immediately, then that's great. But you're going to have to pay a big-time price tag to bring in a big-time receiver. That's just the way of the world.
All right, so, Jack, you have one more of these moves. The Magic Bucket told you to do 3 offseason moves if you were Titans GM Ran Carthon. We've gone through them. T. Higgins, trade and sign with the 2nd round pick for this year and a 4th round pick for next year. We talked about it off the top, re-signing defensive lineman Danico Autry for a 1 or 2 year deal that's not going to pay or break the bank for the 34-year-old defensive lineman. So we'll get to the 3rd one here in a second, but first we need way more likes on the show today. Facebook is really falling behind. YouTube, I expect more out of you guys. Facebook and YouTube, hit that like button, please. It goes a long way for us, so please hit the like button for us. If you're watching on YouTube, you just have to exit the live chat on your phone, hit the like button, then pop the live chat right back up there. That goes a long way for us. So, Jack, the 3rd move you would make in free agency if you were Titans GM Ran Carthon is?
Jack, you haven't talked about fixing the offensive line yet. Why are we talking about any of this? Will Levis isn't going to have time to get the ball to these playmakers. Well, now's the time we're talking O-line, baby. You go out and you spend. You spend at right tackle. Look, I know you got Bill Callahan. And a lot of people are saying, oh, this is great for NPF. Look, Bill Callahan is good, but he's not God. He's not going to be able to turn water into wine with NPF. So you got to go out and you got to spend money on a guy like Michael Onwenu, coming from New England, who can play right tackle. If you go out and you spend $13 million a year on Michael Onwenu, you get creative with that deal. He fits in the budget. He's a guy that you can trust at right tackle who's been there and done that. He's also got some versatility. He's moved to right guard in the past. If you ever need him there, he's a guy that makes sense. And if you can have a left tackle in Joe Alt or Fashanu or whoever you take at 7 on the left side next to Skoronski, you feel good about what you can do over there. If you bring in Onwenu on the right side, that starts making Will Levis feel really comfortable. And then when Will Levis is comfortable, we're going to see what he can do down the field. We're going to see what he can do in intermediate throws. I think that really helps him. And he's a guy who struggles with decision making at times when he's under pressure. Well, you get rid of his biggest weakness if you bring in Michael Onwenu. You make your team better. He will make players around him better. So you go out, you pay Michael Onwenu, his market value, which we're going to pull up here. I guess we don't have his value in front of us.
Yeah, I do
I
have
assume
it.
It's going to be around $13 million a year, which is a cheap price to pay for security over the next 4 years in Will Levis's rookie contract.
Yeah, we don't have one for A to Z Sports.com for Michael Onwenu, but Spotrac does, in that market values around right what you're saying, $13 million. But here's what ESPN.com had about the New England Patriots tackle or offensive lineman. He could play right guard, he could play right tackle. So I think you're finding a starter in Michael Onwenu if this is where Jack's going. 6'3", 350, big dude, has the ability to play guard or tackle, but I see him as a better fit inside at guard. This is from Bowen of ESPN.com, where he can use his size and power to move defenders in gap schemes and anchor and pass pro. Posted an 88.7 pass block win rate at guard this past season. And so if you're talking about the trio of Autry, Higgins, and Onwenu, that year one salary cap hit is probably under $20 million. Now, those are 3 pretty big names.
Game changer, Austin.
And yes, and you're addressing your 2 biggest needs at wide receiver and offensive line with veterans. In this situation, you're still drafting Joe Alt or Ola Fashanu at 7th overall. So now you're getting a rookie at left tackle, Onwenu to be at either right guard or right tackle, wherever that plays out, but still a bona fide starter on the right side to help that. And you're getting T. Higgins on the outside plus Danico back. I think for less than a $20 million cap hit combined in year one, I think that's and again, now you've still got $30+ million, $35 million of cap space to go fill out the rest and sign a center, sign an inside linebacker, sign a cornerback or 2. And now you're starting to really see this team reload from what they've been roster wise.
Yeah, absolutely. You still have a lot of flexibility there. Like you said, Jeffrey says, are we forgetting our entire line sucks? No, we're not, Jeffrey. I promise you we're not. We can't forget that. Look, they were the 2nd worst offensive line in football last year, only in front of the New York Giants. And you can go from having the 31st ranked offensive line last year and jump all the way into the top half of the league if you get a Joe Alt at left tackle, if you bring in an Onwenu on the right side. Then you have 3 guys who could potentially be Pro Bowl caliber dudes on that offensive line. That's going to help Levis. That's going to help Tajay Spears. That's going to help the run game. It's going to make everything flow so much easier. And I get it. A lot of Titans fans are enamored with the fact that Brian Callahan says, you know what, we can cover up some of the O-line issues with quick throws, quick decisions. You know, I've got something in my scheme that can cover up those, like kind of a wideout would do. Well, you wouldn't have to cover up as much if you went out and you spent a little bit on the right side of your offensive line. You're going to have a left tackle and a left guard on rookie contracts. You can bring back Aaron Brewer for a cheap price, and you can figure out what you're going to do at either right guard or right tackle. You got a couple of options in-house that you could throw in over there, whether it's Radens or NPF at either of those positions. And then you've got a functioning offensive line. I miss the days where the Titans offensive line was just functioning and competent. Well, you could have that and then some. by going above and beyond and adding a right tackle or a right guard, whichever they see fit on Waynu. It makes a lot of sense to me. Will Levis is going to be able to develop, and I understand he's a great runner. But when your quarterback has to run often, the chance of injury risk rises. So there's a little bit of give and take there. It's a great skill set that he has. He can use it when he needs it. Doesn't need to use it 10 times a game just to escape from pressure coming in from the inside or the outside. It's a great move. It's a great investment. And at the end of the day, you're investing once again in your quarterback by going and getting him some adequate protection.
All right, so we've got 3 off-season moves that Jack Gentry has made. A lot of people are like, well, yeah, what about center? What about this? Look, these are just 3. These are not the only 3, but it's just the 3 moves. So what we want to do is we want to grade Jack's 3 moves. I'll go through them again. Grading Jack's 3 moves. 1, trade and sign for wide receiver T. Higgins. 2, re-sign defensive lineman Danico Autry. And then 3, bring in offensive lineman free agent target Mike Onwenu from the Patriots. My guesstimation is that all 3 of these players would cost under $20 million combined on the first year salary cap hit. So the Titans would get all 3 of these players. Now with T. Higgins, you're giving away a valuable draft pick, but you're still drafting Joe Alt too. So you get Joe Alt plus these 3 guys that Jack's laying out here and still having $35+ million to spend on the salary cap. So how would you grade these 3 moves that Jack has laid out today? But first, our final sponsor for us to talk about this morning, Farm Bureau Health Plans. If you need help making your health plan better, Farm Bureau Health Plans is your place to go. They've been serving Tennesseans for ongoing 77 years across the entire state. That's incredible staying power for Farm Bureau Health Plans, and they can help you out regardless of whatever your situation may be. They're there to find it for you, whether you're out there by yourself, single, independent contractor, entrepreneur. They can find a health plan that's better than what the marketplace can provide. Maybe you have a growing family, or maybe your family's all grown up and you're empty nested with your spouse and you need that next level of health plan. That's where Farm Bureau Health Plans really specializes as well. Customizable health plans for you, for your situation, so you can get better coverage and pay less. It's the best of both worlds. That's what Farm Bureau Health Plans does. And you can get a quote today at fbhp.com/ATOZ.
BetMGM, sign up. New users, take advantage of this. I'm telling y'all, this bonus code is going to be profitable for you guys. Use code A to Z Sports, get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. If you're looking to get in the game, now's the time to do it. March is right around the corner. Everything's going on. The NBA, the NHL, all that stuff. There's playoff pushes going on over there. College basketball, obviously, you've got March Madness. You don't want to miss out on that. And then you've got MLB coming back. College baseball, we've talked about over the last week. It returns, and that is available on BetMGM as well. So download BetMGM, use our bonus code A to Z Sports, and get up to $1,500 back if your first bet misses.
All right, Jack, I want to see what the people are grading you. You get 3 moves: re-signing Danico Autry, trade and sign T. Higgins, and sign O-lineman Mike Onwenu. What are the people saying on your grade as you're wearing Ran Carthon hat this morning?
Yeah, let's go ahead and start. Some of these comments rolled in before the question. Chris Frazier's given me an A. Thank you, Chris. Darren says Jack is 3 for 3. He gets an A. Darren knows ball. I'm happy to be on the right side of that. Rashid says C+. Brad's at an A. Ken says B-. Curtis says C+. Willie says B. Steven agrees. C's get degrees, baby, and I'm a product of that. So I hear you there, Curtis.
Shout out Ole Miss.
Scott Weaver says A+. Jeff's separating each one. A+ for Danico, B+ for T, and a B for Onwenu. Linwood says an A+. Kane, come on, Kane. What do I got to do to get you on my side? We got a D- from Kane. But he keeps me checked. He keeps me humble.
This does involve Joe Alt.
Yes, correct. IR Hoshi's at a B+. Josh Brown's A-. Titans Kyle, B-. Same with Major Keys. Jody Newell checks in with a B+. Andre says it's an A- depending on the trade package for T. I'll hear you on that one, Andre. It's going to take something. It could take even more than what I laid out to get T. Higgins, so we'll see. Stephen Wood says B+. Albert says A. Billy Jones is at a B+. Joe Alt and No Neighbors, C now. LOLs from Curtis. Okay, Curtis has changed his answer a couple of times. Maserati says A. A+ from B-Birds. Jags clipboard says A plus, but I got to go with a B plus. I'll take a B plus. Thea's at a D. Oh no, Thea, what have I done? Lucas is at an A minus. Peyton says A. Michael Snyder B plus. Mr. Robinson A minus. Rooney says an A. Austin, how do you feel about my three moves as GM? What would you grade me?
I like all three players. I think the why I'm not in the A range is because of the trading away the 38th overall pick in this draft. I think that's too valuable of a pick for the Titans to give up, which makes me give you a flat B. I think it's solid. It's passable. Look, and again, there's still plenty of money to use to sign more. But I think if you're isolating three moves, I think you have to be really excited that this is a B of these three. The hard thing is going from the 7th overall pick and then not drafting again until Saturday in the early 100s. That's why I'm a B and not an A minus or an A. But I like it. I would be very intrigued. I think Titans fans would get very excited because you're checking boxes. You bring back a fan favorite in Danico Autry. You bring in a guy that can help the worst position group on the O-line and Joe Alt because he's included in this. And then Mike Onwenu on the right side. I think that's good. And then T. Higgins. There's a lot of sex appeal to T. Higgins. You're giving up a lot for it, but I think it makes sense. So I give you a B. And Jay says center matters. Yes, center matters.
And that's the thing. A lot of people jumped on me for Aaron Brewer. A lot of people jumped on me for saying that Aaron Brewer should be back. He wasn't in my three moves, but I do think that they should bring him back. Look, he's an elite run blocker, terrible in pass protection. If Bill Callahan can figure something out, I think that Aaron Brewer already has a solid background. There's a lot to work with there. But if you don't want to bring Aaron Brewer back, you could probably find a solid center in the 4th or 5th round. So there's a couple ways to solve that issue, and that would be the cheaper avenue. But I still think that there's a lot to work with if you can bring Aaron Brewer back and just get him to that competent level in pass pro.
And then Mr. Robinson says, what would make it an A move, Austin? And I think that's a great question. I think it kind of goes into what I said. I would immediately move up to an A plus if Ran Carthon and Brian Callahan pull off the trade plan that I kind of laid out earlier in the show, which is offer something that's intriguing to the Bengals this year 4th round and a next year 3rd round for T. Higgins, knowing they're probably not going to take it, let the draft pass, and then jump up to a 2025 2nd and a 2025 4th for T. Higgins post-draft, and you get your 38th overall pick. Immediately, that gives me an A plus. Not even an A plus, because that shows savviness out of Ran Carthon if he can pull it off. Now, there's a lot of other variables that go into that, like another team not having a better offer pre-draft than the Titans for T. Higgins. I have no idea what a T. Higgins trade market's going to look like, and we are still waiting for the official word that the Bengals are franchise tagging T. Higgins that gets this started in the first place, but they have until March 5th to make that happen.
Look, every Ran Carthon needs a Chad Brinker. Austin, I'm happy to hire you on as my Chad Brinker. We can figure out the trade details. We'll get this thing to an A while still bringing T to Nashville. I think we're at a good place here.
I like it. I like that. I will be Chad Brinker. I think, Chad Brinker, he's got a fascinating career. He's got
a fascinating role within this team right now.
Yeah, and that's something that I think we're going to continue to learn more about as he is the president of football operations. But all right, Jack, we went through this has been like an hour-long Magic Bucket play out, which has been fun. I think you did a good job with this. I think this was a great exercise. Maybe one day I'll pull this out of the Magic Bucket, and I will do the same thing when that time comes. But now it is time for us to go back to the Magic Bucket for today. Shout out to Wilson County Hyundai. WilsonCountyHyundai.com is where to go to find out how much you can save on a new ride. WilsonCountyHyundai.com in Lebanon. So don't pay those downtown prices. Go see Payne Bone and his team in Lebanon online at WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So it is Magic Bucket time. as I reach down to grab the bucket. All right. This one is for me first because you went first last week. And
Okay.
last week I had to I had to name a bunch of Super Bowl MVPs. Is that what I had to do last week?
Oh, you tied the tie. You gave the tie tutorial last week.
That was but I actually named MVPs. The tie was the week before.
That's right. You did do Super Bowl MVPs. I remember.
Jake, Austin's gonna fill the magic bucket with only that card so he can give his opinion for a whole show. Like definitely seems like something I would do. All right, this is for me. Okay, Jack, you did this recently, and I get to do it again. Dress up as Santa Claus for an entire show.
Oh, well, we've already got the costume, baby. Let's do it.
Well, half of the costume. You've got a beard.
Mm-hmm.
You
I
got
had
a
to go with
Dumbledore
the Titans beanie.
Yeah, I will. We will make this work. So next Thursday, by the way, Leap Day show next Thursday. Ooh. Free content, free show for everybody. Leap Day show, and I'll be wearing a Santa outfit.
Fun fact for the chat that no one cares about: I was actually due on leap year.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, came early though. It's been a trend for me.
Oh, wow. I literally just pulled the same thing we did today. If you were Titans GM, what would you do? All right. So that one doesn't count. It is crazy if there's 40 something things in here and I pull the same type of things each week. All right. Jack.
Yes, Austin.
Do you have any hidden talents?
Man, I don't have any visible talents. Let me think. Hidden talents. Double jointed, not really a talent, kind of a birth defect.
Jack's hidden talent is just a birth defect. Hilarious.
Okay, hidden talent. What do I got? Hidden talent. This is tough. I'm looking at a GameCube, and I'm so good at Mario Kart.
Is there anything you did as a kid? Like American Top says, can you squirt milk out of your eyeball? Like
no, I wish. Oh, I wish.
You wish.
And JR, to answer your question, no, that is not me. But let's see. Hidden talent.
You gotta have something.
I know. Okay. I can throw a football behind my back, like go around behind my back. I can throw it 25 yards. And this is because I have terrible labrums in my shoulder. I've had to get both repaired through surgery. And so when I had these issues, I couldn't throw anything overhand.
Yeah.
So in order to still, scratch that itch and scratch that itch, and throw the football, catch the football, I learned how to throw behind my back. So I can actually chuck a football on a tight spiral 25 yards behind my back. Accurately. Oh yeah.
So if you were a flag football quarterback, you would be a behind the back thrower. Full time.
I wouldn't. I would mostly throw overhand, but if I needed to, if somebody was coming at me both hands up, I just whiz one behind the back.
So does that also mean if you're playing a heated game of beer pong and your ball bounces back to you, that your behind the back shot is pretty good?
No, my behind the back shot's average in that situation, but it's mostly with a football. It's hard to throw a football behind your back, but I've got practice doing it. I wish I had a video, Lucas, and I know Brad says he needs to see proof as well. If y'all ever catch me with a football in my hands, which you'll never probably do, I'll do it. I'll hit you. But
I'll hit you.
I'll hit you
square in the hands, 25 yards away on a rope.
Right here, baby, right in the diamond. But so that's my hidden talent.
Herschel says, how the hell did it take you so long to think of that? That's a great talent.
I don't know. It's a good question, Herschel. I was trying to think too hard, but it's been a while since I got out there and threw one behind the back, but I've still got it in me.
There you go. You never forget, just like riding a bike, throwing a football behind your back on a dime. All right. Great show this morning, Jack. Well done as GM Ran Carthon, GM Jack here on the show. If you liked what Jack did, hit that like button for us. Give us the thumbs up on the show today. Sam will be live with Titans at 2 later on, and Buck Rising live tonight for A to Z Sports Primetime to wrap up his week. And then we'll be back tomorrow morning on a Friday. Great Titans topics to wrap up the week. NFL Combine will be on fire next week. We will have a team in Indy for the NFL Combine. More on that later on, and we'll catch you guys later on. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Appreciate it as always.